Hey, welcome to 1500ESPN.com. I'm Derek Wetmore, and this is Phil Mackey. We're out at the second day, Saturday, of TwinsFest here at Target Field. We just got done hosting a stage show that you can find the podcast of online, 1500ESPN.com. We were out at the main stage in the Legends Club. It had just a ton of cool guests. Tom Brunansky, Butch Davis, prospects Nick Gordon, Cole Stewart. We had Ricky Nolasco. Dan Gladden came out and hang out for a little bit. Chris Atterbury. Just is a cool lineup of guests. A lot of fun conversation to check out in that podcast. We've also learned some other things outside of that podcast. Phil, in this video, I just want to kick back and forth some things we learned at TwinsFest this weekend.
I would say one of the most important things we learned is it's building upon something we already kind of knew, but Cole Stewart, who's 20 years old now, I believe, who's the Twins' first-round pick from a couple years ago, and Nick Gordon, the shortstop they drafted, Tom Gordon's son, Dee Gordon's brother, are two of the most mature 19 and 20-year-olds I think I've ever been around from a sports standpoint. Nick Gordon, it's funny, a lot of players will talk about, my favorite athlete or the athlete I like to emulate, and then they'll talk about the skill sets or the batting average. And Nick Gordon references Derek Jeter's leadership and accountability. How many 19-year-olds are trying to emulate the accountability style of a former player? So I just think those two guys, a lot of prospects might have higher volatility. Barring injury, I think both those guys are going to be major leaguers sometime in the next few years.
Yeah, and I guess I didn't learn that this weekend from the stats perspective, but you look at the stats, both of those are two impressive young players for the Twins, too. Cole Stewart had a little bit of arm trouble last year, but he told us that that's his main goal this year is to stay healthy. He thinks that he's now gone through a strength and conditioning program that will allow him more, I guess, not longevity, but more stamina to get through the rigors of a longer season than what he was used to in high school. But Nick Gordon also had a fine season in rookie ball, and I think you're right. I think those are two of the guys to keep your eyes on. Of course, they're high draft picks, so you'd have that expectation anyway, but at least early in their careers, they're living up to that expectation.
What else did you learn?
I learned Brian Dunsing agreed to an arbitration figure, $2.7 million. That was
Are you shutting the lights off on us right now?
Did they not know we were recording a video? Hey, come on, Twins. The midpoint figure was about $500,000 higher than that, right? So Dunsing kind of settled for a $2.7 million contract, but he'll be back in the Twins bullpen. And that doesn't exactly set their bullpen. We kind of already knew Dunsing would be in it, but they do have an interesting mix of bullpen arms, and I had a hard time. I was trying to project the Twins 25-man roster. I had a hard time figuring out the bullpen because they've got, not necessarily like 7 boom, 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 boom guys, but they've got enough interesting arms to choose from that they're going to have some decisions to make.
Well, there's guys like Ryan Presley. What do you do with him? What do you do with something like a Mason Melitakis, for instance, who's been lights out in the minor leagues? It probably starts the year in the minor leagues. There always seems to be someone like Casey Fiend from 3 years ago. Nobody had any idea that he was going to be as good of a relief pitcher as he was, except for obviously Terry Ryan thought so.
Or even Jared Burton, who kind of came over as a scrap heap deal, and while he was good, he was a great eighth inning guy for the Twins. Anything else that you learned, I guess, prospect side? That's kind of what I was most interested in this Twins Fest. Anything else that you kind of picked up from that?
I learned that just in general, being a hitting coach or a pitching coach, it's really more about the player. I mean, it's funny because we asked Tom Brunansky, when offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, pitching coaches, hitting coaches, when they're blamed or given credit, how much of that is true? And he said, and Ricky Nolasco from the pitching standpoint kind of backed up this notion that all of the heat that's put on pitching coaches, hitting coaches, it's really unwarranted, and the credit too, because those guys, it's sort of like they're sort of psychologists and mentors in a way. And if Oswaldo Arcia hits 30 home runs this season, I'm sure Tom Brunansky deserves some credit. If Oswaldo Arcia hits 10 home runs and gets sent down to the minor leagues, I'm sure Brunansky deserves a little bit of heat for that, but it's 95% Oswaldo Arcia. Yeah. So to have people confirm that it's an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I've always wondered if that gets overstated. Like pitching coaches too, who was the least popular figure here the last 3 years in Minnesota? It might have been Rick Anderson, ahead of even Ron Gardenhire among the fans. And I don't know how much of that is fair. I've always kind of wondered how much of the good is on a pitching coach or bad in any case. I've really been curious about that. Another thing I was curious about, though, Twins prospects, Miguel Sano and Byron Buxton. Terry Ryan basically suggested on 1500 ESPN today with Pat Royce and Judd Zulgad, he's looking at a September date for those guys. He said if there was a month he had to pick, it'd be September because, keep in mind, they missed all of last year. I get that. I understand that, a year of development being missed is probably important, and they are going to probably need to start in the minor leagues. Yeah. But I think if a guy like Miguel Sano goes to spring training and is the best third baseman in camp, and then maybe they start him at AA or AAA, and he's the best hitter in the league, in whatever respective league he's sent to, I don't see any reason why the Twins couldn't call somebody like that up early, even though he missed an entire 2014.
The only
I'll
thing
be curious
is,
about that.
This is we're getting 5 steps ahead when I say this, but Trevor Plouffe is on the roster. He's making $4.5 million, and he was a decent defensive third baseman last year.
Trevor Plouffe was a lot better last year.
And this is more of a when Miguel Sano is ready, whether it's in 3 months from now or in 3 years from now. What happens to Trevor Plouffe? Do you shop him? Do you try to make him a super utility player? Maybe Sano is the third baseman, and Trevor Plouffe can hold a glove at 5 different positions, and maybe he plays 4 or 5 days a week, left field, right field, third base once in a while. Maybe he gets to start at first base, and he came up as a middle infielder, even though he's pretty far removed from that skill set. So
my question is, why can't Sano be a DH to start? If
Vargas, Mauer, Hunter should DH.
It's
a little
crowded.
bit,
It's crowded. I'm just very curious to see how that goes this season. I think 2015 for me will be mostly about where do Byron Buxton and Miguel Sano finish. I'm not so concerned where they break camp.
Right.
Where do they finish, and that's how you're going to gauge prospect for the Twins this year.
We should probably wrap this up before they keep turning Budweiser.
These lights will go out.
The Mini and Paul light out
Mini
here.
and Paul's gone. They'll probably come take my laptop and my cell phone here in a little bit. But for Phil Mackey, I'm Derek Whitmore. That'll do it for this Twins video. Hope to do a couple more of these during the season. This was fun. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming to 1500ESPN.com for all your Twins updates. Until next time, we'll see you later.